Hello everyone, this is Michael with Quiet Lawn. I hope you're doing well. Next video in the series, I just showed you our whole process to get leads in, send estimates, get contracts signed, and give our job instruction notes for our crews. Now I want to talk about when you're doing your estimates, like what are the easiest and most profitable items that you want to include in your estimate, and what do you want to focus on when you're with your installs, because this took me several years to figure out. I wish I would have figured it out sooner, but this is very important because there's some things that you're going to offer that are going to be very profitable for you. They're going to be very simple to install, and there's some things that are going to be very tedious. They're not going to be as profitable. And obviously with our business, we want to focus on what's profitable. It doesn't mean that we're not going to still, if somebody needs it, be able to offer those other things. But I want to talk about what we lead with in our estimates, and we don't include that other stuff unless the customer specifically asks for it. And if we do that, we price it accordingly, because I'll show you why here in just a little bit. But what are the easiest and most profitable Christmas lights to offer in your estimates? Well, I always tell people three things. You want to focus on three things. You want to focus on roof lines. You want to focus on ground lighting, which is basically the same thing, except you got a different kind of clip and you're just putting those same lights around the landscape beds. And wreaths. The nice round wreaths you can put. I'll stay away from the doors, but you can see here in this picture, you got some nice wreaths here above the garage, under these peaks. That's the three things that we send in every estimate. The reason we only send that is because, one, with roof lines and ground lighting, the kind of lights that we use can be custom cut to the exact size of whatever surface we're putting it on. So if we've got this house over here that we installed on that has this little tiny roof in the middle, you can see right here above there's this little tiny, I don't remember what you call it, a little dormer or whatever. That may only be like 6 feet of lights. Well, we can cut the way these lights are made, we can cut a 6-foot piece of lights and put it right there. So the reason we can do that is these lights come on these sockets called C9. You can see this spool of lights here, but this wire is wired in parallel. That means that we can cut it we can cut it down to an individual bulb and not have any problems with the lights burning out or anything like that. Each socket acts independently from an electrical standpoint, so they're not dependent on each other. So that's, we can customize around the roof line, we can customize around the bed. If it's 163 feet of roof line, we can cut 163 feet, and that's what makes it nice and neat. You can't buy lights like this in Walmart or Home Depot. If you start installing Christmas lights, do not buy anything from Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart, because those lights are all wired in series. And even though they might look like these C9 bulbs right down here that screw in these individual bulbs, they're not. They're made a different way. And if you cut them, you will destroy the lights. So you have the option of either cutting them and destroying the lights, or installing them and they don't fit correctly and you have to hide the excess lights, and it just doesn't look good. Plus, they don't look nearly as bright and good as these lights that we have, as these commercial grade lights. The next thing the first reason is you can cut them to exact size. Second, these are actual bulbs. They're not just a little plastic cover that's put over, an LED diode that's like molded into the string of lights. These are actual bulbs. You can unscrew these bulbs, so you can customize the patterns, you can customize the colors. If I want to do one white, one red, one white, one red, or if I want to do 3 white, 3 red, 3 white, 3 red. If I want to do multicolor, if I want to do their team's favorite colors, you can do whatever you want. So these colors can be customized for whatever the customer wants. The other cool thing is, although it will take you a little bit longer the first year to install these lights, because you have to custom cut all these, like for this roof line, I have to custom cut pieces for each part of that roof line. After I've cut it the first year, the second year, I'm pretty much just throwing it right back up on the house and clipping everything in place. I've already marked, my peaks. I've already custom cut each piece of the roof line. I might be able to install that house in a quarter of the time the second year and beyond as it took the first year. So I like that. That makes it a lot more profitable after the first year. And lastly, while we focus on roofs, roof lines, ground lighting, and wreaths, wreaths are really easy to reinstall as well. The first year, with these two wreaths you see here in this picture, we have to screw in maybe like a 4-inch screw, or you might have to use a concrete screw if they have brick. But we're going to put in a screw at the very top of this peak, and just we're going to hang. We use like the plastic covered wire. Like the green plastic covered wire to hang our wreath up on that screw. It takes a few extra minutes the first year to install that screw, but after we get done, we leave that up there because it's up there where you can't really see it. And the second year, we pretty much just put the ladder on the house, walk up the ladder, and hang the wreath back on that screw, and it might take you 5-10 minutes. So, it's just very easy reinstall, very, very neat. So that is what we focus on with our estimates. Now, what do we try to stay away from? Well, we try to stay away from trees, shrubs, columns, and windows. So, the reason, well, you can see these pictures, they look beautiful. So here's a picture of somebody's wrapped this whole tree from branch to branch. It looks beautiful. I'm not saying the work's not beautiful or it's not professional. But I'll tell you why we stay away from that stuff, or we don't lead with that stuff. You can see over here on this house, this other house we've installed on, that we've put lights around the columns. You see we put these green lights on these columns. Well, the reason we stay away from this is because when you're wrapping things like this, shrubs, trees, these columns, you're using a different type of light. You're not using these big C9 bulbs that have this socket wire that can be custom cut. You're using mini lights. And mini lights, the way they're wired in series. So, you buy these at Walmart. These are not from Walmart. These are commercial grade, but you can buy those cheap mini lights at Walmart, and they come in like strands of like 50 lights or 100 lights and, 6-inch spacing or whatever it is. But the way those are made is they are wired to have that many lights on that strand, and they're all wired together. And if you start cutting lights off, it's still going to send the exact amount of power, but it's going to be spread over less lights now, and it's going to overload those other remaining lights, and it's going to burn them out if it doesn't burn them out immediately. So you just can't cut them. Each light does not act independently like they do if they're wired in parallel like with the other lights. So you end up with this situation where you have excess lighting that you have to hide, that you can't cut off. Or in the instance of like wrapping columns here, it's a pain in the butt to wrap columns. So you end up wrapping the columns, and you get down to the bottom and you've got 3 feet left, and it just looks terrible. So you have to unwrap the whole thing again and then try to get the spacing close together, in between the wraps. So it's just this trial and error thing that takes forever. It's just a tedious process, and it's not really worth it. The other thing is you can't change the colors. These are actually these lights are a certain color. You can't. There's not an actual bulb that you can pop in and out. You can't change these. These are hard. These are like glued into there. They're actually like fabricated as part of the light. You can't change the light, the color scheme on them. The big thing is it takes the same amount of time to install these lights and remove them each year. It doesn't get faster like installing on the roof lines, the wreaths, and the ground lighting. It's the same process to wrap those columns every year and to unwrap them. Same thing with the trees and bushes. Windows, even if we're using these bigger lights, these C9s, ones that we can custom cut around windows, we stay away from windows and like wrapping around garages and doors, stuff like that. Because typically you either have to use some type of way to attach them that's more permanent. And that's the good thing about these lights above. Like none of this is permanent. You use little plastic clips that clip onto the gutter, clip up under the shingle, little plastic stakes that stick in the ground. Like nothing is permanent. We're not putting staples in people's houses. We're not putting, aside from anchoring the wreath, we're not putting screws or anything like that in the house. But if you're trying to install around windows, a lot of times you'll have to do that, or you'll have to use hot glue, something like that. And the problem with that, or suction cups, and the problem with that is those things don't last very long. Either they're going to blow off in the wind, and you're going to have to go back out there and service that property multiple times in the season, which kills your profitability. Or they're going to leave some kind of permanent, either glue residue or staple holes, stuff like that in somebody's house, and it's just a liability for you as the business owner. So we stay away from that stuff, so just to keep it simple. But yeah, so if you're doing this, like, that should be in your estimate. Every estimate should have roof line in it. It should have ground lighting. It should have wreaths. And we don't include anything about trees, wrapping columns, stuff like that. If a customer asks, we will offer it. But I'll just tell you, if you look at this house here, as far as how long it takes to install stuff, this house is all 4 sides. We did all 4 sides around this house. It probably takes as long to wrap these 4 columns for probably about a fifth or a sixth of the price as it took to do the whole roof line, because it's just so tedious having to wrap these columns. I think these columns were like 8-foot columns, but it just takes forever. So I highly recommend you trying to push your customers in a direction of roof lines, wreaths, and ground lighting. Anyways, I hope that helps. I'm not saying you can't make big money in this. There's guys doing huge tree jobs. They're wrapping and doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just in trees and stuff like that. But it's just not my business model, and I prefer simple cookie cutter roof lines, wreaths, ground lighting. If you want to specialize in that stuff, like this tree right here, that's got to be dozens and dozens of strands of lights, and that probably takes many, maybe a full day. I don't know. I can't see how big that tree is, if it's huge or if it's like a smaller tree, but probably takes a full day to wrap that tree, maybe more. And requires special ladders, sometimes a lift, stuff like that. Some of these big trees that you see could be in the tens of thousands of dollars, and they might use hundreds of strands of lights. It's incredible. But that's just my tip. Please leave your comments below. Please let me know what other topics you want me to cover on this subject. And thank you all for watching. Have a great day.